Welcome to our explainer. Today, we're diving into a story that starts small with a single misspelled sign on a daycare center, but quickly spirals into a huge, multi-million-dollar fraud allegation. And, this isn't just some local issue. It's actually become a real flashpoint in a national debate, raising some pretty serious questions for some of Minnesota's top officials.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with the claim that really sets the stage here. According to an independent journalist cited in the report, the evidence of fraud was so blatant, so obvious, that it should have been impossible for anyone to miss it.
All right, so what is this massive fraud scandal they're talking about? Well, at its core, the report alleges that millions in taxpayer dollars were funneled to dozens of childcare centers in the Minneapolis area. And the thing is, according to this investigation, these places showed some really clear signs that they weren't exactly legitimate operations. So the evidence here, it's all built on some pretty old-school, boots-on-the-ground reporting. This journalist actually went to several of these childcare centers with a camera. And what he documented was, well, locked doors, empty playgrounds, and just other signs that these weren't really functioning businesses, even though they were supposedly getting huge sums of government cash.
And the report really hones in on one business to make its point: the Quality Learning Center. Yep, learning. That misspelled sign is presented as way more than just a typo. It's kind of used as this visual symbol for a supposed lack of legitimacy and, a lack of oversight.
And when you dig into this one facility, the questions just start piling up. The report points out it was licensed for almost 100 kids, but it racked up over 120 violations. The owners got large forgiven pandemic loans, and its business hours, get this, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Not exactly your typical daycare schedule, right?
Okay, so what are we talking about in terms of money? For just this one center? According to documents the report cites, this single facility, with all those red flags, pulled in nearly $8 million in federal funding in just a few years.
Now, whenever you're dealing with millions of dollars in taxpayer money, the next question is always going to be who's accountable. So the report's focus naturally shifts to the state's leadership, specifically Governor Tim Walz. And it basically asks, what did they know and when did they know it?
So you basically get two very different stories here. On one side, you have Republican Congressman Tom Emmer, who's quoted accusing Governor Walz of knowing all about the fraud and just ignoring it. But then, on the other side, the governor's office fires back, saying he's actually been working to fight fraud for years and has even asked the legislature for more power to crack down on it.
From there, the story really zooms out. It goes from the state level all the way to Washington, D.C. The report brings Congresswoman Ilhan Omar into the picture, and it starts raising questions about her family's finances, all set against the backdrop of these fraud allegations.
So, what's the connection they're alleging? Well, it's not what you might think. The report doesn't claim there was a direct payment or anything like that. Instead, it points to something else entirely: a really sudden and, frankly, dramatic jump in the personal wealth of the Congresswoman and her husband.
The number the report puts front and center is, well, it's pretty staggering. A 3,500% increase in their net worth in just 1 year. That's according to financial disclosures. This reportedly took their estimated wealth from a pretty modest amount to somewhere between $6 and $30 million.
And according to the report, the plot thickens a bit here. It claims that as questions started to grow, details began to, let's say, disappear from the website of a capital fund run by the Congresswoman's husband. The source definitely presents the timing of that as suspicious.
And this is where the story really pivots. It takes this local Minnesota issue and plugs it directly into a much, much bigger and way more heated national conversation. This alleged fraud suddenly becomes a case study in a larger argument about federal welfare and immigration policy.
And to make that link crystal clear, the source directly quotes Congressman Chip Roy of Texas. He says point blank that this is what happens when you have these huge welfare programs funding immigrants. He argues this isn't some isolated problem, it's systemic.
So, in the congressman's view, at least as it's presented here, this isn't just a few bad actors taking advantage of the system. No, he frames it as this big, coordinated, global effort by all these different groups to intentionally exploit U.S. laws and use the welfare system to fund immigration.
Okay, so what's the fix? Well, the congressman lays out this pretty sweeping 4-point plan. It starts with tackling fraud at the state level. Then it moves to investigating officials, and from there, it really escalates to a full pause on all immigration and locking in the policies from the previous administration.
So there you have it.
You see how a story that starts with one misspelled sign on a small business can blow up into this massive national debate about immigration, wealth, and politics. It really leaves us with a big question. When a local allegation becomes a national talking point, how do you separate the actual facts of the case from the political arguments they end up fueling?